background in coaching, and that's right. I'm on my ICF-PCC journey. And even before that, because I was an HR professional, coaching is something that has been a part of my life. So I'm going to be maybe taking around 45 minutes for this session. And after that, maybe the last 15 minutes, we can have it open for Q&A. That being said, if at any point of time you have any questions, you wish to stop me and ask a question, please feel free to do that. With that, I'm now going to be sharing my screen. I hope all of you can see your screen. Gauri, can you please confirm if you can see my screen?
Yes,
I have also
yes, we can see your screen.
Yeah, okay. So that's my topic, the role of a coach in driving individual and organizational growth. What are we going to do in this session today? We are going to look at the very need for coaching. Why do we need coaching? We will bust some myths. We will look at what is coaching, what it is not. A lot of times words like coaching, mentoring are used interchangeably. Are they the same thing? We'll look at that. We'll look at some coaching trends, not all positive, some critical as well. We will, of course, look at the executive coaching do's and don'ts, which is when to go for executive coaching, some best practices, and how do you design an effective coaching process? What makes it effective? And lastly, we will look at coaching as an evolution. How can coaching become a part of organizational culture? How can the manager become a coach? And coaching, can it become a way of life? And the third one, I'm sure, is not an often heard topic. Coaching as a way of life, but it can be. So we start with a poll survey. Are you okay with the poll? Gauri, are you ready with it?
Yes, Arun, I can do that immediately.
Yeah, let me just stop the slideshow, and I'm not able to see the screen where you're doing the poll because I've shared my screen. But
Can
probably
you stop sharing your screen for a second?
I'll stop sharing. I'll stop sharing. Sure.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So we have 8 participants, right?
Coaching essentially is a process that will help you to get to where you want to be in a much shorter time and to achieve the success that you want to achieve in life without doing it on your own.
Coaching is a guided process where somebody helps you through the power of questions and active listening come to your own conclusion. You have to get your own answers. And these are the best answers because you are the expert for yourself. So I think coaching is the leadership style of the future.
A lot of things I love about coaching, especially I love the moment when my coachee gets an aha moment or realize that, oh, I need to change, or even I want to change, and then start this passion. I'm witnessing that exact moment.
I love helping people. Love helping people work through things that have kept them stuck, have kept them playing small, have kept them from living to their fullest potential. And now I have the opportunity to help other people who are like me, you know, well-educated, trained professionals who've invested a lot in a career, and I can help them to put all the pieces together and get in touch with what it is they really want to do and help them through the transition so that they can live the rest of their life really fulfilled.
Yeah. Gauri, are you there?
Yes, you can start sharing your screen again. No,
Sure. There was also a poll. Can you run the poll for us? There was a poll I had
the
shared.
end of the video, you mean?
Yeah, not at the end of the video. I had shared the poll questions beforehand. Do you have them with you? Otherwise, we'll move ahead with the deck if the poll questions are not there. We'll use, because there aren't so many people, we'll use directly do the poll in
I
terms of...
only the link that you shared is only leading me to the video.
No, that's fine. The poll questions were sent beforehand, before this session to Preetham. So if she
Did
has
you
not
send
passed
it
it
to
on to you, to Preetham,
Did
yeah,
you
she
send
has
it to
the questions.
Preetham by any chance? Oh, I haven't
Yes.
received the question.
That's fine. That's fine. Okay, then we'll do the polls differently. So I'm again sharing my screen. And let's move to the poll questions, okay? Yeah. Somebody's saying you may ask. Ashish is saying you may ask as well. So that's exactly what I'm going to do. So yes, my first question is, coaching takes too much time to be practical at work. So just put your responses in chat. Let's see how many agrees and how many disagrees we have to all these questions. Just put your name and say A or D. A is agree and D is disagree, okay? So there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 questions. So for these 5 questions, put 1A, 2A, 3D, like that. You can put it in the chat and then let's look at what does this group feel about it. So first question, coaching takes too much time to be practical at work. Second question, most employees prefer being told what to do rather than being coached. Coaching works only for high performers. Coaching is a nice to have, not a business necessity. And if I'm nominated for coaching, then probably I have a problem which needs fixing. Agree, disagree. I hope all of you have seen all the questions. So let me just stop sharing and see some of your responses. I'm interested in seeing, okay. Okay, very aware people here. A lot of disagrees. Okay, few agrees. Harish says second, he agrees. The second question is, most employees prefer being told what to do rather than being coached. Interesting. Okay. Wow, I'm impressed. This is a fairly aware audience. Apollo says A. Okay, I don't know for which question. Biased questions to make us disagree deliberately. Well, they are very, very open questions that all corporations ask themselves. And sometimes I have personally heard HR people and sometimes even CEOs talk about, why are we doing this? What's the point? What's the ROI in this? So fair enough. I think it gives me a good pulse of what this class is thinking, and that's interesting. Okay, let's get back. We have seen the video and we have done a quick poll. So need for coaching. So let's assume that this is a group of people, largely, I think, already convinced that coaching is important, but maybe some people are figuring out, yeah, maybe it is important, but what's the necessity for it? Let's spend some time talking about that. Firstly, it's a VUCA world: volatile, uncertain, complex, ambiguous, right? With the geopolitical situation, with oil prices, with environment acting very funnily, we all know that business is now not predictable at all. And change is a way of life. And so change fatigue becomes normal. People get fatigued with wanting to change and adapt all the time. And they need somebody to talk to help them do that. AI is reshaping the world, which means my role doesn't look like my role the way it looked yesterday. It's not going to look like that tomorrow. And that means I have to adapt all the time. Again, change and the need for coaching comes in. How do I adapt to this changing world? Hybrid work models and diverse demographics. What this does, and today after COVID particularly, what hybrid work models have done is that they have made building trust even more difficult. Transactional workplaces have become common because people are not seeing each other so much. People are not connecting with each other so much. So there's a need now to connect even more, and coaching comes in there. Agile role changes amidst performance pressure. I think this is the most popular reason for why people take coaching. What I want to achieve versus what I end up achieving always has a gap. The gap between what I want to achieve versus impact. I want to impact X, but my actions are always 0.4X I always miss out. How do I bridge this gap? And that's where coaching comes in. And today there are very fast changes that happens and performance pressure doesn't come down. Conventional education cannot bridge behavior and commitment gap. We just spoke about it. Nowhere in our school, nowhere in our colleges was this taught. How do you bridge this gap? Which is why this becomes important. And behavior change, it's one thing to read about change. It's quite another thing to change. It's one thing to say, yes, I want to change my habit. It's quite another thing to actually change it. So the more leadership becomes less about what to do and more about how to think and adapt, that much more coaching is going to become a strategic necessity. It's no more a good to have. It's a must have. And of course, coaching does not mean you have to go external. You can go internal and find coaches and have coaching done for you. But the need for coaching is undisputed today. How you do it is, of course, dependent on every organization. Now we come to the important slide in terms of coaching, mentoring, team management. What's the difference? So coaching is all about unlocking potential, improving performance, right? Think of coaching as allowing the other person to reflect his own strategy, his own potential. What are you made up of? Making a person reflect on that. As against that, mentoring is more about experience sharing. You are somebody senior, you are talking to somebody junior, and you're saying, hey, I have done this in my life. Let me tell you my story. That is mentoring. Team management is, of course, you have goals, you have metrics, you have to get things done. So that's very different from both coaching and mentoring. The focus in coaching is more present and future. In coaching, you don't go into the past, which is why coaching is very different from counseling as well. Counseling, you go into the past. Mentoring is also current and future, but the focus is more long-term career, professional growth. So for example, a junior finance guy speaking to a CFO on how to become a CFO is a good example of mentoring, not coaching. The approach of coaching is not to give all the answers. And this is probably the most important point. Often when I introduce myself and I tell people I'm a coach, people ask me, a coach of what? Career coaching? What do you tell people? And my answer to them is I don't tell them anything. I ask questions. I facilitate reflection. So coaching is about that. Mentoring involves a lot of advising. It's about saying, hey, I have been there. I have done that. I know how that works. Let me tell you. That's mentoring. Coaching is very different. The nature of the relationship coaching is partnership, non-directive, which I just told you about. You don't tell people what to do. Mentoring is like an advisor. And team management, of course, is authority-based. The role of a leader is more of a thinking partner for coaching and a role model in mentoring. And a supervisor, obviously, in team management. And use of personal experience, minimal. So as a coach, I'm actually not supposed to bring a lot of myself into the conversation. I'm supposed to keep myself out, speak as less as possible, listen as much more as possible, which is very different in mentoring. In mentoring, you bring a lot of yourself into the conversation because you are the mentor. You have been there, done that. So you can tell. In fact, in mentoring, you will often also see domain expertise is very important. If I'm mentoring a finance guy, I have to be a CFO. I have to be somebody who is very experienced in finance. In coaching, I can be a coach to a CEO. I don't need to be a CEO for that. That's probably one of the most important differentiations. Few other points. Coaching is about coachee owning the solution. So the actions and the accountability is owned by the coachee, not by the coach. Whereas in mentoring and team management, it is often more directive. You tell people what to do. Time horizon, short to medium in coaching. Mentoring is always a little more long-term. Coaching is structured but flexible because achieving goals is important. Mentoring is often informal. You can easily have a mentoring session in a cafe, but coaching needs slightly more private space. So I would rather do coaching in a meeting room than a cafe. Typical outcomes in coaching are increased self-awareness, behavior change, better decision-making, greater awareness. Mentoring, you get professional development, career clarity. Mentoring is a great space if you want that as a goal. And team management, of course, is different. It's about achieving organizational goals. The most important part is the last one, power dynamics. Is a coach equal to you, higher than you, lower than you? The answer is a coach is equal to you. It's a partnership. A coach's job is to keep you accountable. It is your job to do the actions. And if you don't do your actions, a coach will ask you questions and say, hey, it's a partnership. We agreed to this. What happened? That is the coach's job. Mentoring is always hierarchical. The mentor is bigger than the mentee, but not in coaching. Okay. I hope this was clear. I know there was a lot of content in that. Let me just stop sharing and take questions, if any. Any questions here? Was this difference clear? Okay, I don't see any questions, so we move on. Sharing my screen again. Yeah, and now we come to some research trends. So here are 4 interesting research trends for you. Leaders look for development-cited coaching as 60% effective as against training, which is 35%. So what I'm increasingly seeing, and in my role as L&D head, I see a lot of it. Increasingly, companies are becoming skeptical about training, but quite positive about coaching. And the research kind of backs it, as you can see here, because people believe that coaching actually brings change. Coaching is very directed, very focused. Training is more like good knowledge, a good day out. You went out somewhere, somebody trained you on something, feels good. But often people have come back saying, but I don't know what have I retained in my mind for me to apply. Coaching, on the other hand, is a little more directed. Secondly, coaching is seen as the company investing on me. And that's interesting. 40% organizations report 16% higher retention where coaching programs run regularly. So coaching is seen as a very positive investment for the person who's getting coached. That person genuinely believes my organization believes in me, spends on me. Third, meta-analysis shows coaching has greater impact on observable behavior than attitudes and personality. Now, I found this particularly interesting. What this says is, coaching is not so much about changing the individual that you are. That doesn't change. It's not about changing your intrinsic attitudes. That also doesn't change, but your behavior changes. It means you may not so much change from inside, but in an organizational context, if certain habits, certain behaviors are expected from you, you start doing those after coaching. I'm not saying this as a good or a bad. I'm just stating the research trends. And last, but not the least, and a critical one now, ROI value is inconsistent in coaching. So I spoke about ROI. I know CEOs ask about this question, that I put X amount of money in this person. What is the proof that this behavior change is sustainable? What is the proof that this guy is now really changed? This ROI value is inconsistent because of over-reliance on self-reporting and inconsistency in evaluation tools. So most organizations, how do they evaluate coaching? They ask the person, hey, do you feel better? Do you feel different? Person obviously says yes. Sometimes they will ask the coach, hey, is he better now? And again, people say yes. And sometimes they will ask the manager, hey, do you see a change? And the person may say, yeah, I think he's better now. So it is all perception based. There is no real evaluation that happens often in coaching exercises, which is why maybe coaching is good, but there isn't enough research on ROI of coaching. It is a mixed result. Now we look at how does an effective coaching process look like. So most important thing is that we start with the buy-in process, the buy-in of the coachee. It is a very sad story that as an HR person, I've seen this. Often a person is put into coaching in a corporate world without his consent. He's not even asked about it. He's just told, hey, you are a key talent for us. You want to put you into a coaching program. You're important for us. So go meet this coach. And this person is not even mentally ready and he's wondering what happened just now. Why am I being put into this coaching? So we don't get buy-in of the coachee and we directly start the coaching intervention. That's a no-no. Start with buy-in. Involve the coachee fully and the manager also fully in this. Tell them, why are you doing this? Hear their rationale, very important. Second, get the coach, and don't just get one coach. It's ideal to get 2 to 3 coaches. Have chemistry sessions with all of them. Let the coachee have the chemistry session and let the coachee decide, yes, I am comfortable with this coach. And then we go with that coach. We don't go with the coach that you want. We don't go with the coach the coachee is comfortable with. Third, design end state and metrics. Between the coach, the manager, the sponsor, the coachee, we should all have a very clear definition of what does success look like. If this coaching process is successful, how would success look like? And how will we measure it? What will be the metrics? Without this, we should not start a coaching venture. Because without that, if you start it, everybody has a different idea of what coaching looks like or what coaching results you were supposed to achieve. Next, know what to ask. So reviews are important. It's very important to review a coaching process, but not to eavesdrop, but to gauge pulse. So a very bad question to ask in a coaching review is, hey, how is this person doing? What is he saying? What is he saying is a direct attack on confidentiality. In a coaching conversation, even the manager or the big boss is not supposed to know what the person is speaking. You cannot ask that question. It's a direct, non-ethical part of coaching, which is that you start talking about what the coach is telling you. So that's not a good question to ask. A good question to ask is, are you seeing progress? And if we talk to the coachee, what is the coachee likely to tell us? And you go and ask this question to the coachee to say, what are you seeing? What are you seeing as different after talking to the coach? That's a great question to ask because you're asking the coachee directly. But asking the coach behind the coachee's back is not a good practice. Second, give it time. Sometimes coaching takes time to open up. Sometimes 3 to 4 sessions just go in building the trust. It's not that the magic is going to happen from the first session onwards. So give it time, be patient. And I already spoke about this, confidentiality is key. The coach cannot share information by definition, but the coachee can. So ask the coachee, hey, how are you doing? What's going on? Last but not the least, know when to call it off. If you feel that there is no progress and no willingness from either the coach or the coachee, maybe it's time you intervene. Second, let there be no blame. There should be no blame game. Sometimes coaching doesn't work because it wasn't the right time. Sometimes the coachee wasn't ready. Sometimes the coach and the coachee chemistry is not right. There are many reasons why it can fail, but what you should not do is start blaming either the coach or the coachee. And most importantly, support it. Know that you are a part of that ecosystem for that coachee. So if you have to play an active part with the consent of the coach and the coachee, please be open to do that. Because the coach honestly has no magic wand. These are some important steps when you do a coaching process. Now we are going to look at some best practices of coaching. First, I think I can say it 100 times and still it won't be enough. Maintain confidentiality throughout. Let the coachee share, not the coach. Don't ask the coach, hey, what is he saying? Is he saying anything? What improvements is he going to do? Ask these questions to the coachee, not to the coach. Set clear, measurable outcomes based on behavior. Why? Because behavior can be seen. If I say, I'm going to be honest, that's a very bad success metric. Because how do you know honest? Honest is an attitude. It's inside me. How does it translate to behavior? So all goals should be behavioral because they still can be measured. An attitudinal thing cannot be measured. So goal should be something that everybody can see. Used evidence-based methods or credible frameworks. So for example, the International Coaching Federation, ICF, gives some very powerful competency-based frameworks on what coaching is. Dr. Marshall Goldsmith has done excellent work in coaching. So that framework, use something that has worked in the past. Don't go purely by a coach's intuition. See what framework is he going to follow. Engage all stakeholders who matter, right? The manager, the CEO, if you want to do a 360, then involve other stakeholders who matter. Encourage self-reflection and accountability. That's the heart of coaching. Coaching is not about giving direct answers. Ensure a coach and a coachee fit in chemistry before you start. Without that chemistry, there will be a problem. Evaluate for progress, not just for success, right? Progress is that you're moving towards the metric. You have not achieved it, but you're moving closer to it. Sometimes you have planned 7 sessions for coaching, and by the 7th session, you haven't reached your goal, but you're much closer to the goal. Know that that is also like success because you have moved ahead. You haven't reached there, but you've moved ahead. So celebrate that. And last but not the least, be wary of self-fulfilling prophecy kicking in, which means at the end of the coaching, everybody feels good about it. The coach feels good, the coachee feels good, the CEO feels good, the HR guy feels good, and they're like, oh yeah, it was a great effort. But be careful. Are you feeling so just because you have invested in it and you want to feel good about it? Or was it genuinely successful? Do this evaluation in a very objective manner. And evaluation is based on how had we defined success when we wanted to start this coaching practice. And where are we with regards to that? That's how you find it out, not basis your emotions and your perceptions, right? Again, keep in mind, when directing and delegating something is a priority, coaching is not your best foot forward. Sometimes somebody is very junior and what they need is a lot of instructions. Coaching is not to be used there. You would rather use directing, or somebody super ready and you just want to give them work and not worry about it, then delegating. So if you are familiar with situational leadership by Ken Blanchard, he talks about directing and delegating, but only when potential is to be developed, potential is to be unleashed, performance is to be improved. That's when coaching comes into the picture. So also know internally for organizations, when does coaching become more important? We'll do another poll survey now, and I'll stop sharing my screen. But before I stop sharing, I want you to look at these questions. And these are not necessarily all of them are not questions which have an option. Some of them are, you need to write a little bit. Now we are going to enter into coaching as a culture at the workplace. Now let's take coaching to our companies, right? And there are some questions there with regards to that. The first question, in your view, what defines coaching culture? And give me a few words. The second question, what is the biggest barrier to building a coaching culture? The third, where do you think coaching can create most impact in organizations? The fourth is, of course, you have an option there. How frequently does your manager use coaching behaviors? What can organizations do to make their managers into better coaches? And the last one is interesting. You think you can coach yourself? Yes, no, maybe. So there is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There are 6 questions. So just choose your question number. If you want, maybe I can put the question numbers here. I'll just put this as 1, 2, 3, and this becomes 4, 5, sorry, and 6. Yes. I hope you have made a note of those questions. Now let's me stop sharing and let's see some of your responses. You have already mentioned yes. Okay. It's a little difficult to navigate, but let me try and say. So what Ashish is saying is, what defines your coaching culture? Safe space. Interesting. Biggest barrier to building a coaching culture is fear. That's interesting. That's a loaded word, fear. Where do you think coaching can create maximum impact? Customer-facing roles. How frequently does your manager use coaching behaviors? Rarely. What can organizations do to make their managers into better coaches? Inspire them, is I'm guessing is the answer. And the last question, can you coach yourself, is a maybe. Thanks a lot, Ashish. Let's look at some more answers. Aminat, I think, is saying training to question number 5. Okay, so training, managers need to be trained. Okay, interesting. Haresh is saying first, asking questions rather than answering. Okay. Sure. Let me do one thing, Haresh. Let me also copy paste the questions and put it in the chat. So then we don't have to worry about remembering the questions. Here are the questions. Yeah. So I hope that helps. Number 2, lack of organizational focus. So what you are saying is companies are not focused on this. Okay. Non-judgment. I'm really loving some of your responses to question number 1, which is what defines coaching culture. Somebody said safe space. Aminat is saying non-judgmental. I think that's a very powerful thing that you have said, Aminat. Rajiv is saying that lack of organizational focus. I don't know how to say that name, but I'm guessing it's Benga. Benga is saying that understanding is the problem. Understanding is what defines coaching culture. So non-judgmental, understanding, safe space. Beautiful. Beautiful. Okay. Farhat is saying that user Ted's question approach. I don't know what Ted's question approach is. Maybe you can tell us, Farhat. But essentially what I understand is it's a questioning approach is what you're saying. And Charmaine is saying, yes, you can coach yourself. Lovely. So you have the first yes to that because the others were saying maybe. That's the first yes. Interesting. Leadership buy-in. Very interesting. Okay. Self-development. Growth mindset. Lovely. Nice. I think I have good amount of responses to this. Okay. Farhat is telling me, tell me, explain to me, describe to me, show me. Oh, that's nice. Very nice. Thank you, Farhat, for enlightening me with that framework. Totally makes sense. Yes. Often coaching has a lot to do with action. No, you have to embody it. Only educating people theoretically about coaching won't help, especially in an organizational context. Okay, let's come back to the presentation. Thank you so much for all of your responses. I think a lot of them make a lot of sense. Okay, so now with this presentation, now it takes a different turn. We are now not going to go so much into what coaching is and what are the best practices because we have already covered it. We are now going to move into the organizations because that's where a lot of us work and trying to figure out what is the right approach there and how do you evolve coaching there. So before we do that, some thoughts for reflection, and I want you to read this. I'm going to pause it for 10 seconds. And there's another statement after this, if this made sense to you. You know who's the one who has said this? It's a gentleman called Dr. Marshall Goldsmith. And Dr. Marshall Goldsmith is a CEO coach, probably one of the most famous CEO coaches in the world. And he's saying something very powerful, something that will appeal to adult learning. What he's saying is people don't change because you want to change them. You may want to change anybody, but people are not going to change because you want them to change. They will change when they very clearly see that, yes, they need to change, which means they understand it, they believe it, and they commit to it. At the same time, we speak a lot in terms of what you should do, but not so much in terms of what you shouldn't. And that is also where coaching plays an important role. Sometimes holding the mirror to say, hey, you know what? You are doing this, but you are doing this in excess. Maybe you should not do it so much. Example, somebody is a hardcore disciplinarian. He says, meetings need to start on time. Meetings need to start on time. But that thing has made him such a hardliner that now he's finding it difficult to build trust with his team. Just a small example, which just shows you that sometimes it's not just about starting new habits. It's also about knowing which habits to let go of. And organizations constantly have to build new behavior skills and sometimes shed old behaviors. It's not simple. Letting go of something is never simple. And this powerful quote makes us reflect that, yes, both are important. Learning something new, letting go of something old, which Dr. Goldsmith is telling us. Now, here's a very important question. Should coaching be more internal or more external? Should I opt for an external coach, or should I train my own managers to become coaches and run a train the trainer on coaching in my organization? Well, it's not either or, to be honest. And let me give you perspectives on both. So firstly, advantages. If you are an internal coach, you already understand the culture. You already know what this organization is, who the key stakeholders are, who the influencers are, what problems can come in. So you can very well adapt. Accessibility is very simple. You are a part of the organization, so people can easily reach out to you. And obviously, it's cost effective. You're not going to charge because you're an employee. At the same time, having an external coach has its own advantages. One is objectivity. An external coach comes as an external lens. So he's not biased by the organization's perspective. And sometimes he can bring a very new angle to the way you're looking at the situation. Second, expertise. Often an external coach comes with expertise, certifications, and that helps. And he has seen few other organizations. So he knows what works there, what did not work there. He can bring that perspective. And confidentiality. With an external coach, the person who is getting coached, the coachee in this case, feels much more comfortable because he knows this person is an outside person. He's not close to anybody in my organization. With an internal coach, that fear may remain of whatever I am sharing, will it stay here or will it go to somebody else? At the same time, things to watch out for. Internal coach can have biases, right? Because the sponsor has already told him something about the coachee. Imagine a CEO calling you and saying, or an HR guy calling you and saying, hey, this guy has an attitude issue. I want you to coach him. Now the internal coach is already a little biased because he knows there is already this tag of attitude issue, right? So that's the danger with an internal coach. And confidentiality we already spoke about. An external coach cost, some companies are cost sensitive and they do not want to spend that kind of money on coaching. And sometimes integration can also be difficult, especially if it's a very tight-knit system and the external coach can't somehow adapt to that organization's culture. So what's a general recommendation? And I'm going to put a few recommendations here. If it's an executive level coaching, you want to coach a CXO, an external coach is preferred. If you want to develop a high potential, an internal coach or a blended approach, a bit of internal, external, both is preferred. If there is a succession transition, succession planning, an external coach is again preferred because he comes with an unbiased perspective. And if there is team coaching to be done, culture building, an internal coach is always a great idea because he already knows the dynamics there and he can actually be a catalyst for change. So the real point I want to make here is it is not about this or that. It is this and that. You should know what initiative you're taking and then choose the coach that is most suitable for it. So what I want to leave you with, particularly on this slide, is that great organizations do not polarize the two options, but blend them with a focus on building a coaching ecosystem. It's not about this or that, it's this and that. And I think I'm coming close to the end of my presentation. So finally, evolve with coaching. Coaching, if really imbibed, embodied by the coach and the coachee, can actually change your very life. It's not about that 90-minute session with the coach. It's about how you start living your life. And I'm going to give a couple of reflection thoughts to all of you. Hopefully, these thoughts will make you look at coaching differently. First, coaching. What does coaching do to you? It makes you listen deeply. If you really become a coach from the heart, you start listening deeply, not just in the coaching conversation, but you start listening deeply just otherwise while conversing with people. You listen deeply, you ask questions, you say less, you listen more, as they say, and you stay curious without judgment. Somebody said that in the chat as well, that, coaching is non-judgmental. So to stay curious without judgment is not easy because the nature of our mind is such that we love to label things. We love to say, oh, I know this. Oh, I know this. I know what this is. It's very easy to step back and say, okay, I don't think I know the answer. Let me ask more. Let me figure out more. And this can actually change your life. The very way you start interacting with the world around you will change if you imbibe this. Second, we just start creating psychological safety, which means we don't turn anybody into a villain. Neither do we run away from somebody who seems like a victim. We open our arms, we hold space, and we say, hey, I'm here to listen. I'm not going to judge you. You can be yourself with me. Trust me, that's a very powerful thing to do. In team meetings, in coaching settings, with a customer, in job interviews, you name it. It has multiple applications. So if you really bring the coaching mindset into this, you start creating psychological safety with other people. People start feeling safe with you. Third, very important, avoid the advice trap. We all have an internal expert that often gets activated when somebody asks us something saying, hey, what's your view on this? And instead of giving an answer, start with a question saying, why do you think is this question important to you? You've asked me a question. Why do you think is it important for you? And you will immediately see there's a flip in the other person, and the person is not expecting that question. The person is expecting an answer from you. But instead of giving an answer, you say, and what makes that important for you? And you will suddenly see the person pausing and saying, yeah, I'm wondering why is that important for me? So that's the power of coaching. Challenge gently. This is, I think, one of the most beautiful things about coaching. When I am a coach, sometimes the question I ask, it's one of my favorite questions, is, in what you just shared with me, what is it that you're assuming? Let me repeat that. In what you just shared with me, what is it that you're assuming? Because we're always assuming something, but stating it like a fact, as if it's a fact. So we challenge, but we challenge gently. We don't challenge to hurt people. We challenge to make people reflect, sometimes on their beliefs, sometimes on things they've assumed. Practice feed forward and be open to it. Now, feed forward is a concept that was given by Dr. Marshall Goldsmith, the same person whose quote we saw 2 slides back. What is Dr. Goldsmith saying? He's saying instead of feedback, which is about what historically happened in the past, and that makes people defensive, right? You start telling people, hey, you know what, that's that day, the other day, the way you spoke, I think you could have done it differently. And immediately people get defensive saying, hey, it was not wrong and da-da-da. Instead of that, talk about how you would want to see this person behave in the future. So feed forward would not be so much about that day, that situation, this is what you could have done. It's not about that. Feed forward is about, hey, in the future, I would like to see you do more of this. Or in the future, I would like to see you do less of this. And people can't get so defensive about it because it's in the future. It has not happened. But it's a very powerful way of letting people know. Kind of like a feedback, but not like a feedback. That's why it's called feed forward. Most important, coaching is about accountability partnering, right? If your coaching goal is, I want to get up at 6 o'clock in the morning, a real coach would get up with you and say, hey, are you getting up at 6 o'clock? He would give you that reminder call. He's not getting up. Maybe he'll give that call and then go to sleep himself. But it's about showing accountability because you're partnering with somebody. Super important. And not giving up on people. Very often we give up on people. We say, this person is not going to change. But coaching is about not giving up on people. And most important, practice slow thinking. Slow thinking is a concept that came up in a book. I don't remember the name of the author now, but it was called Think Fast, Think Slow. That's the name of the book. Think Fast, Think... Daniel Kahneman. Daniel Kahneman is the author. Think Fast, Think Slow. And what the book says is that most of the times we're thinking fast, which means we're thinking reactively. And what coaching does is it slows down our mind and we start thinking slowly. We start responding, not reacting, which is the power of coaching. And that's a small cartoon there for you, right? That's the situation in the world. Everybody wants a life coach, including that boy in the 4th grade. Thank you so much. I'm going to stop sharing my screen now. And if you have any questions, any comments, I'm happy to listen to you and hear your questions. Okay, I'm going to the chat. Are there any questions? Okay, thank you for the applause. If there are any questions, you can put it in the chat. Gauri, are you there? If people want to ask questions, maybe they can. And thank you so much. Thank you for your warm applause. I think somehow all of you are muted, so maybe you cannot. If you have a question, you can maybe raise your hand, and maybe I think I have the power to unmute you. So I may be able to unmute you. Okay, I think Harish has a question. Let me try.
Hi, Rohan. Am I audible?
Yes, Harish, you're audible.
Yeah. Thanks, Rohan, for all the insights you've shared. Just a very generic question. Nothing from the slide deck that you have shared. For any mid-sized organization, what could be a probable, budget range if any organization is, moving in the direction? What is a good budget, if at all, to be considered for bringing in a coaching culture? Actually?
So overall budget, of course, depends on how large the scale is, how many people and what time. But broadly, I recently participated in a coaching survey that was conducted for some of the people like us, just to ask, what are the trends as far as coaching commercials are concerned in India. And interestingly, the number, and now I'm talking in INR here. So in terms of just Indian rupees, the range was as broad as starting at 7,000-8,000 to going up to 30,000. And I'm talking about a session. So a session typically is an hour, Harish. Why I'm telling you that is there are different types of coaches, right? Different levels, different competencies. If you are familiar with the ICF terminology, there is an ACC, PCC, MCC, right? So MCC is the most proficient coach, plus experience council. So you should really look at who are you wanting to coach, how senior or junior that person is, and what would he require. And you can get a coach as cheap as 7,000-8,000 for a session, or sometimes even lesser than that, 4,000-5,000. And you also have people who charge 30,000, 40,000 for a session. So it's that broader range. And that's what that coaching research trend showed us, that this is the broad range in India when it comes to coaching. So you have a large range to pick up from, Harish. What you really need to be careful of is who are you wanting to coach and what will be suitable for that person or persons. Did that help, Harish? Did that?
Absolutely. So what I'm assuming is 7,000 to 8,000 when it is a possible indicator.
Very much possible. Very possible.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that is for someone like a level 1 ACC. Is that what your possibility?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay.
Right. Yes. And if you have junior people, slightly junior people, not very experienced to coach, and ACC coaching may actually work pretty well.
Okay.
Yeah.
That helps.
But it completely depends on context. Yeah, sure. Any other
and
questions?
Ron, maybe just whenever possible, I think the previous slide, if you can just come display back whenever possible.
Yeah, sure. You're talking about the internal versus external coach or the one after that?
No, I think just before the cartoon.
Oh, okay. Sure. I got it. I got which one you're talking about. Yeah. I think you're talking about this one. Sorry. You're talking about this one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anything on this slide that you want to ask, Harish?
No, I just missed out the last one. I'm just referring that. That's it.
Daniel Kahneman. Daniel Kahneman is the author, and the book is called Think Fast, Think Slow. Brilliant book.
All right. Thanks,
So
Ron.
think slow is what coaching makes possible. Yeah. Okay, perfect. Any other questions? If you maybe raise your hand, I can unmute you, or you can just directly also type your question in the chat, and I can try and answer your question. Gauri, are you there? or any moderator from GSDC?
Yes, Rohan.
Yeah.
If-
So
if
I'm just looking for questions. If there are no questions, then probably we can close the call.
Thoughts on
I think there is
internal
one question.
coaching.
There is one question. Somebody has asked something. 1 second. Rajiv is saying thoughts on internal coaches. So Rajiv, I'm guessing you want to know my thoughts on internal coaches? Is that the case? Yes. Okay. Perfect. So Rajiv asking, what is my thought on internal coaches? Now, internal coaches is completely dependent on the fact that whether the organization has a coaching culture. If the organization has a coaching culture, it means an internal coach actually knows his job. It means he has been groomed by his seniors or by trainers who were before him on what coaching is. And the diciest part of internal coaching is confidentiality. Because just think of the situation, Rajiv. I'm coaching somebody on performance or potential. And then somebody who is 3 levels senior to me and that person comes to me, maybe he's a super boss and says, so tell me, Rohan, what is this person telling? Now I'm in a dicey situation because suddenly it's like, oh, do I share? Do I not share? Because this person is so senior, how can I not tell this to him? So this is the problem. If there is no coaching culture inherently in the company, internal coaches actually cannot do their job. They end up becoming people who report to top management on what's happening. And then that's a very wrong use of coaching. So do internal coaching if you have a mature coaching culture, or start building a mature coaching culture. If you think the person's confidentiality will not be respected, then don't go for internal coaching. Rather opt for an external coach. I hope that answered your questions. Okay. Harish, do you have another question? Sorry, I'm just trying to, because your hand is raised again. Okay, you have another question. I've asked for you to be unmuted. Yes, I think Harish, you are unmuted.
Yeah, Rohan. So I think you did mention at one point ROI of coaching is slightly difficult or trickier.
Yes.
But is there any still, if an organization decides, the investment that you're doing, is it really working, or it's just a theoretical thing they're observing? Any maybe if you have any reference for me to read further on that, or any book which speaks about more?
Yeah, 2 very simple things can be done, Harish.
Okay.
One is, like I said, define success very clearly in terms of behavioral metrics, not fanciful things like this person should eventually take my place. That means nothing, because you are not going to go anywhere so soon, right? So how will you know if this person is actually taking your place? So you are saying this person should embody certain behaviors deeply. So what you can simply do is, one is define success criteria, metrics. How will you measure? What will you measure? Then do a 360 before, a 360 later. That's option number 1. Option number 2, do an assessment center before coaching, an assessment center after coaching. Let the person go through a BEI, which is called a behavioral event interview, before and after. And if you put the person through that, a person can easily say, yes, this person, I can see a difference now, because you're objectively evaluating. So Harish, those are some things, very simple things you can do. I think one thing very popular is a 360. So do a 360 now and do a 360 6 months after the coaching and see if there is a difference. That's a simple way to see if there was genuinely a difference. And that's a more of a lagging indicator. A leading indicator is what we defined as success at the end of session 8 or session 9 of the coaching. Are we seeing those? What you should not do, Harish, is base it on HR's opinion, CEO's opinion, or coach's opinion. Opinion should not matter here. What are we measuring? Are we there? Does that help, Harish? I hope it helps. I don't see Harish, but I hope it helped. Yeah, okay, cool. Any other questions?
I guess, Rohan, these were the questions we were having for today.
Yeah.
And yes, everyone, I'm sharing Rohan's LinkedIn over the chat box too. So make sure that you're following him on LinkedIn. And even if you have any questions in the future, please feel free to reach out to him and he will be happy to help you as well. But yeah, and meanwhile, if anyone of you is having any questions, you can feel free to drop it in the chat box. And yes, Rohan, before we call the session
Or
off,
even on LinkedIn, if you reach out to me and you have something specific to ask me, you can do so, even in the future. Okay, Gauri, then I think that's it.
Yes, Rohan, before we call this session off, would you like to make any final statement for all of us?
I think the only statement I would like to make is that don't make coaching into a big thing. Coaching is about becoming more self-aware. And I want to answer one question for myself, though nobody has asked it. There was a question I had asked, can you coach yourself? Yes, no, maybe. Nobody said a no, that's great, but a lot of maybes and one yes. I want to tell you, it is very important to coach yourself, which means it is very important to press the pause button inside of you and create silence inside of you. Build a little self-awareness. What am I thinking? What am I feeling? How am I behaving? If a coach can't do it for himself, how can he hold space for somebody else? As our father of our nation, Mahatma Gandhi, said, be the change you want to see. So it's very important that coaching is inculcated as a habit first inside of us before we create the space to hold that coaching for somebody else. At the same time, I also want to keep in all of you to keep in mind the famous proverb, doctor, heal thyself, which means sometimes the doctor also needs healing. So as a coach, when sometimes you feel, you know what, I need to speak to somebody, my mind is too muddled, then don't hesitate to look for a coach yourself. A doctor is not always healthy. Sometimes a doctor needs to see another doctor. So at the same time, don't bring this ego that I'm the coach, so I'm not going to need another coach. No, a coach can also need a coach, and know when you need that help and go for it. So I would just like to leave people with that thought.
Thank you so much, Rohan, for that great advice. And we would be delighted to have you sometime here in future as well. And everyone, please make sure that you're following Rohan on LinkedIn. I have shared his LinkedIn over the chat box. And I have some announcement to make. If you leave review for this session, if you're selected, you will be displayed as the 𝗟𝗑 Spotlight of the Week for the next week. So make sure you're dropping your reviews. And yes, we also have the AI series going on. So if it's something that interests you, make sure you're joining the session as well. And if you would like to be a part of any of the Learning Capsule webinars or podcasts, you can reach out to me on gauri@gsdccouncil.org, and I'd be happy to take you ahead from there. And thank you so much, everyone who joined today's session, especially Rohan, to you for offering us all your wisdom and experience with this. We would be delighted to have you sometime here in future as well, as I mentioned already. So yes, have a good day and good night, everyone, and we will be seeing you in the next sessions.
Thank you, Gauri, for having me. Thanks everybody for joining. Goodbye.